Hey everyone, this is Austin Schur here with We Write About Music, and today I'm speaking with Saral, who is much better known as Polarity Code. He has just put out his all new single titled An Illusion, and it is stunningly beautiful, and I seriously mean that. Saral, thank you so much for coming on today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. This is a real honor. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Well, I mean, good music deserves to be talked about, so I'm really excited to do just that. To start, I gotta be honest, when I wasn't distracted by the beauty of it all, which happened kind of pretty often, I have to say, I was trying to make connections within the lyrics. So I was hoping that you could sort of start us off by letting everyone know what it's about and what's sort of like the overarching theme that you're trying to cover here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I won't talk about the personal motivations because I like to have everyone have their own interpretations. But I
Absolutely.
but I but I will say this. A lot of the songs that I write about are about experiences I've had in my life, observations I've had, and things I've learned over time. And so I like to incorporate a lot of these themes into my music, both on the dark side and on the positive side.
Sure.
And so you'll hear over the course of the song that there are moments which are more upbeat and positive, followed by darker, more morose moments. And then at the end, it's a little bit more upbeat and dancey. And so the idea for the song is that it's a three-act narrative about life,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah, it is not a standard song by any means. For those that are wondering, oh, this is just like, standard verse, chorus, verse song. No, 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 no. This is like a true full-on listening experience. It honestly feels like it could be a movie score or like input to a really dramatic point in a movie, which I enjoyed a lot. The next thing I really want to talk about here is the production side of things. First thing I'll say is for anyone about to listen on a really nice pair of headphones or a nice sound system because truly it's an immersive listen. As far as the production goes, did you do all your production? Did you have any outside help? How did it all sort of come together?
So the way the process worked is I put together a couple of demos for the song. So each of the parts of the song, each of the acts, as we'll call them, was a separate demo that I put together.
Okay.
And after I put the demos together, I started to work on production, but I definitely had a producer help me out. His
Sure.
name's Matt Gunby, and he's been working with me on several tracks now. I've been working with him for about 3 years now. And the
Uh,
typical process is where I'll compose the ideas, I'll put together the demo, the skeleton, and then we'll work together on the production side of things.
wow.
And so I'll do the main compositions, and
Sure.
then he'll come in and help me clean some of that up. And then one other thing to mention is on the drumming side, I do co-write all the drums with a friend of mine. His name's
Okay.
Ron McGuire. So we get together over Zoom sessions actually
There you
and
go.
and work on programming drums. And so that's how the drums came about for that song and for most of my songs up until this point.
Wonderful. Yeah, that was definitely the next thing I wanted to talk about. As far as the composition and the whole instrumentation side of things, I figured you had a hand of it. That's, obviously one of the most important parts. It is easily one of the most emotional and dramatic pieces that I've listened to in a while. And again, I'm not just saying that. What was the inspiration behind it all? I know you mentioned that it's three different demos, but how did you sort of dream it up?
Yeah, that's a fun question to answer.
Yeah.
So I was actually wrapping up one of my writing sessions and I went on a walk, which is something I do fairly frequently.
Yeah.
And on this walk, I happened to listen to Radiohead's song Paranoid Android. And if you're familiar with that song, it's also broken up in a similar way structurally, where it's sort of three different songs that they wrote smashed together. And I didn't know that that's how they wrote the song at the time. But when I came home from my walk, I looked it up online. That's how they wrote the song. And I was like, oh, I think I want to try to write a song like that. And so that's the actual genesis of that song is I went
That's
on a walk,
amazing.
listened to the Radiohead song, came home, did some research, and decided to try that for myself.
That's incredible. Yeah, you're speaking with one of Radiohead's biggest fans right now. So I definitely could hear that influence for sure. I am actually staring at a Radiohead poster right in front of me.
Very
so,
nice, very
so there
nice.
you go. That's fantastic. Yeah, I definitely could feel that influence. And then once learning a little bit more about it, I said, oh, yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense.
Yeah, I think the other thing I would add is that structurally, I definitely take inspiration from just classical music in general, which
Yeah,
is a lot more through composed. There's not like verse, chorus, repeating patterns.
Sure.
And so it's a combination of taking ideas from pop music, i.e. Radiohead,
Right.
as well as just some of the fundamental structures and ways that classical music is written.
Yeah.
So it's a joint inspiration, I'd say, across multiple genres.
I fully see that. And listen, there's enough ABBA pop music out there at this point. I think that people like you who like to mix it up and actually try to challenge listeners is where music should be headed.
Yeah, I mean,
As opposed to just like mainstream pop and what's on the radio and this and that. So good on you. Good on you. Keep it up.
yeah, it's fun to challenge myself, I guess I'd
Totally,
say.
totally. Not to take the focus away from this song, but just taking a look at the future a little bit. In terms of future releases, do you have any idea where you want to go, what you may want to experiment with, or anything that might be in the works at the moment?
Yes, absolutely. I have several songs that are either in the queue and or finished with production and mixing and mastering, which I'll be releasing in the coming months. My general goal with this project, as of now, of course, this may change, but is to explore classical music in interesting ways personally.
Sure.
And what I mean by that is I personally don't. Growing up, I didn't listen to a ton of classical music. I listened to it on the side and for fun, or when I was going for a ride in my car. I find it very, very meditative and then inspirational. But I never got deep into the genre. And over the last couple of years, I've explored and studied classical music a little bit more. And in my studies, I've learned that it's a very complex genre of music, not only from a listening experience, but also some of the nuances of the compositions themselves are things that I would say the quote average listener wouldn't be mindful of or wouldn't be aware of. And so my inspiration for this project in general is to try to find ways to reimagine classical music, make it a little bit more relatable and a little bit more relevant in terms of what's happening in music, in mainstream music these days. So whether it's adding synths and electronic sounds like you heard on
Sure.
this song, or electronic drums, I have a couple of other songs which incorporate jazz and classical music, some others which are more EDM style. I've also thought
Yeah.
about incorporating rap into some of my songs. So just trying to experiment with different ways of bridging together classical music with other genres of music. That's a general goal of what I'm trying to do right now.
Sure. No, no, I love that. I hear what you're saying on the classical music side. I think that for a lot of people, there's this huge barrier to entry when it comes to it because, I mean, not to put it too bluntly, but it sounds old. You know what I mean? Not a lot of people want to, hop back into the 1700s. But at the same time, what you're doing is sort of taking that influence and infusing a modern take on it, adding those modern day instruments that give it that depth and atmosphere to it. And I think that's definitely where the industry should be headed in terms of that. Just because, like I said, there's so much same out there, but there's also hundreds of years of music to pull from. So
Exactly. And I mean, personally, I just love the sound of strings. I mean, I think
sure,
strings are just the most beautiful instrument.
yeah,
And so it's like, why not take these amazing instruments that are so dynamic and you can get so many different emotions and articulations
right,
out of it and just make it a little bit more modern, I
yeah,
suppose.
I agree. So, I mean, we've talked a little bit about what has inspired you in the modern day and obviously classical music as well. But were there any like key artists or even like full length albums in your life that inspired you to take this path as a musician?
In terms of classical music specifically, or just
Anything,
in general.
anything. Maybe something that you heard that just had such a serious impact on you that you were like, you know what? I'm going to learn how to play instruments and make music for myself.
Yeah, I mean, so growing up, it was a lot of rock and roll actually, and I went through a heavy metal phase,
Sure.
jazz, soul, so a lot of the different pop genres or like mainstream genres.
Yeah,
And over the last couple of years, as I've gotten more into classical music, there are definitely artists. I mean, Radiohead, we've talked about them.
sure.
They have a lot of classical influences, especially on some of their later music.
Yeah.
Muse is a huge
Hmm.
influence of mine. They have a lot of songs which are directly inspired by classical music and where they quote different classical compositions. Then you have other experimental indie artists like Zola Jesus,
Yes.
Nostalgia. who are some of my favorites, and the way they incorporate, in the case of Zoologies, it's just operatic vocals with other synth electronic sounds is just beautiful to me.
Right.
And so movie soundtracks, Hans Zimmer,
Yeah.
all of those artists as well. So I try to get anyone who's doing some form of classical music and mixing it with other genres of music, I find just really fascinating and inspiring these days.
Nice. That's really cool. So tell me this: you've gone from start to finish on the release of just music as a whole. It starts with the writing and sort of the dreaming it up, and then it ends all the way in the music promotion side of things. Is there something specifically that you enjoy the most about the entirety of the process?
Including both the composition all the way through promoting as well.
Yeah, start to finish, from yeah, the whole
Yeah,
thing.
I have an answer to that. So I truly enjoy 95% of the process.
Sure.
My like opening up my DAW and seeing a blank project which I get to write notes on that don't exist, down to composing it,
Mhm.
producing it, recording it. And in the case of an illusion, we haven't talked about this yet, but there's actually those parts were recorded by a real string quartet. The group was called Atlas. So just working in that for that particular song,
Mhm.
working with Atlas to get those parts recorded, I enjoy. Producing it with my producer, working on mixing, and I didn't do the mixing and mastering, but working with a professional mixing and mastering engineer,
Sure.
all of it I enjoy. The only thing I don't enjoy in the entire process is comping vocals. Comping
Yeah.
vocals is painful to me. In fact,
Oh, why
I'm
is that?
probably going to be using someone else to do that in the process going forward. But outside of that, I enjoy absolutely everything about the process. And then on the promotion side as well, my background is not in music composition or anything music related. It's more in business and IT and marketing.
Okay.
So because of that background of mine, I naturally enjoy thinking about how can I find creative and interesting ways to promote this music? What is it
Sure.
that people want to learn more about with my project, and anything related to that? I truly enjoy coming up with the marketing strategy and just finding different ways to expose people to this music.
Right. I mean, in a world that it's never been easier to make music, but it's also never been more difficult to get heard, you kind of have to think out of the box a little bit. So I understand that. But there's so much to the process, it's kind of never ending and always changing.
Exactly. And for me, obviously, I hope people enjoy the music I put out, and I hope that this project ends up allowing me to turn it into a career.
Yeah,
But even if it doesn't, I'm going to be making music the rest of my life.
totally.
I'm going to be trying to advance my skills and just experiment with new and interesting ideas that I come up with. And so, being able to turn it into something more than that would be amazing. But
Mhm.
even if not, I just love writing music. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's the passion. It keeps you occupied outside of the day-to-day life. Completely get it.
Exactly.
Now, for those that listen to your music and for those that are sort of going to dive in for the first time, is there sort of an overarching message that you're trying to put across on everything that you make? Like, what do you think that your music says about you as a person?
Oh yeah, I have a lot to say about this.
Please,
I can
please
talk about this for
unload.
hours, really. But one of my favorite things about this project is the name Polarity Code.
Yeah.
Polarity Code is is me in a nutshell, in the sense of I see myself as a juxtaposition of different
Mhm.
ideas. My background is technical and engineering, but I'm also doing all this work as an artist on the creative side of things.
Right.
I was born in the US, and at the same time have parents who were born in India. So I'm culturally kind of a mix of East and West. So in several different ways, I see myself as just a juxtaposition of different ideas and concepts. And I try to have that be the focus of my music as well. Just incorporating ideas that may not otherwise go together, whether it's like in the song An Illusion, parts that start out more bright and poppy and upbeat, followed by these darker moments after that, and that being sort of a representation of life itself, right? Combining different ideas. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do with this project, and overarching all of it is just a belief in persevering through life, persevering through obstacles, and always trying to come across, always trying to get through and continuously improve to reach your goals, to reach what it is that you want to do in life. But it's going through these struggles, going through difficult times, but ultimately overcoming them and coming out as a better person as a result. I would say that's the overarching theme of the ideas that I put into into this music.
That was a fantastic answer. Seriously, from the heart. Yeah, I love that. I completely get it too. There's just, I mean, you can feel it. You can feel it in the music. There's just a little bit of everything, but it's obviously personal to you.
Obviously personal, and although I do try to create music that's not all the same, it does tend to, the songs do tend to end on a positive note.
That's
Even if the
okay.
music has darker tones, it still ends on a positive note. So that's something that I always try to do is just keep 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 in mind that the goal of life is to enjoy it, to enjoy the journey,
Sure.
not be so outcome focused, and that's what I try to get across in the music.
Right. Now, as you continue to release music in sort of like a mask discography, I know it would be difficult to recreate these songs in a live setting just due to the sheer amount of sounds and the amount of people you would need to get. But is touring or even playing local shows something that may be in the works or something that you're working towards?
I am dreading this question.
Listen,
Oh
I
my
know how
goodness.
tough it's got to be to even begin to think about it.
Yeah, I've given this a fair amount of thought over the
Sure.
past couple years, and I would absolutely love to perform this live. At the same time, it would be a little weird if I had a laptop on stage and hit play and this gigantic orchestral sound came across with just one person on stage.
Sure.
So I'm trying to find a solution to this. I do want to find a solution to this.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it would be a dream of mine to have the backing of an orchestra while performing these songs. Of course, that would be
Yeah.
amazing. I'm not at that point yet, and trying to find a medium a solution before I can get to that point. I don't know what it is yet. It could be something like having a quartet on stage performing the
Yeah.
lead parts while I have backing tracks perform play back all of the other parts to it.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure. I do want to create an experience that is correlated to the music that's being heard, obviously.
Of course.
I just have to give that a little bit more thought. And especially, this is especially true with other songs that I'm going to be releasing in the future,
Sure.
some of which are more instrumental in nature and have like just a ton of orchestral parts. And it just, I'm not yet sure how to perform that live with my current situation, but something I am actively thinking about and do absolutely hope to do at some point in the future.
Cool. Yeah,
Great
I mean,
question. Great
well,
question.
the thing is, you're in a tough position because, yeah, sure, you could sort of recompose them and strip them back and have less people, but then I don't think that it would have that same oomph like playing it. And I
Absolutely.
wouldn't want you to feel shortchanged for giving people a show or an experience that was less that you had dreamed it up in your mind.
Yeah, it's funny. Uh, for my brother's wedding gift, I bought him tickets to go see Metallica in
Oh, no,
San
cool.
Francisco when they performed with the orchestra, the Seattle
Oh, very
Orchestra,
cool.
the San
Very
Francisco
cool. Yeah,
Orchestra.
yeah, yeah.
And so me and my brother went to that show, and it was like, oh my gosh, this music that is like organically metal has this huge orchestra
Mhm.
surrounding it, and it just sounded beautiful.
Yeah.
And I was thinking the whole time, I stopped enjoying the show at some point. I was like, how can I get to the point where I'm doing something like that?
Yeah, who can I
So,
contact to get them to match?
so I
Takes you
definitely
out of it
want
a
to,
little bit.
check in with me in maybe a year or so, and maybe if you ask me the same question, I'll have a different answer.
You got it. Well, that's actually the perfect segue because my next question for you was going to be hypothetically, what does the next year of your life look like? It can be what might be planned, what you'd like to happen, or just a general outlook.
I have answers to that in all levels of detail,
Sure,
but
sure.
I think in general I'm planning to release more music. Not sure how many songs yet, but I'm going to be releasing singles, which will hopefully lead into the culmination of an EP release.
Sure.
But singles these days are how people release music, so
Yeah.
that's the path I'm going to take. And continuing to work on new music, I have several tracks in the works right now. I'm getting more to the point where I'm interested in bringing on other collaborators as well. So up
Mhm.
until now, it's been me doing all of the compositions and then working with the producer and the drum programmer, like I mentioned.
Right.
But I definitely want to get more into collaborating with other people. I've started talking to other artists and musicians about that, but hoping to just continue writing music. And then I'm truly looking forward to the promotion side as well.
Yeah.
I just want to find a way to share this music with as many people as possible. So
I
definitely
get
something that
it.
I'm interested in.
You spent the time, you're putting out a 10 out of 10 product, and it deserves to be heard. Like, people need to listen to it. So I'm right there with you. Um, so we've spoke about it a little bit, about who you're listening to and what has inspired you, but I want to know, what have you been listening to maybe over the past year, or even just this year's releases? What's been on your playlist? What are you enjoying?
You know, it's it's kind of interesting to me because I I got into composition very, very late in life. Like I started in my mid 30s. Before my mid 30s, I had not composed a single note in my entire
Mhm.
life. I have a lot of training as a singer, but I never wrote a chord progression. I never wrote a bass line. I never did any orchestration. I mean, I had zero experience prior to starting this project in 2018.
Wow.
And because of that, I've been listening to so much music my entire life and not actually using that as inspiration for writing my own music,
Oh,
right? And so the inspiration I have is from decades of listening to music and not having used that inspiration for actually writing my own music. So
okay.
I probably listen to less music than these days, at least, than like the average musician. I still listen to music quite a bit,
Yeah,
but it's not like I'm constantly listening to a bunch of music because I already have so much inspiration from all these songs that I like
sure.
that I'm just tapping into all that. And I just feel like one with all this like pent up inspiration,
Yeah.
along with the fact that I'm constantly still learning about how to compose and how to
Mhm.
incorporate all these ideas I have. Every time, for example, I learn a new music technique, whether it's changing the tempo to be in an interesting way or modulating to a different key in an interesting way,
Mhm.
that new technique automatically inspires all kinds of ideas for me. That doesn't require me or doesn't require me to listen to a lot of music to get inspiration. And so right now these days I just open up my DAW, start writing, and just all kinds of ideas just come to me. It's really fun. It's really fun. And I wonder at what point that inspiration will sort of run out and I'll have to find something more. But right now I have so many ideas that I want to explore and so many ideas I want to get down on in my DAW that I'm
Right.
not listening to as much music as I think maybe the average musician would be.
No, it's fine. I hear that a lot, actually, and I hear it from both sides. I hear it from, like, for example, I like a lot of comedians, like, I'll listen to other comedians' podcasts, and they don't go home and watch comedy. They go home and they watch war documentaries, like the complete
Yeah,
opposite,
interesting.
you
Yeah.
know, to not maybe like take that influence and accidentally create something that is too similar. And then also, it's just like in your situation, if you're surrounded by music 24/7, you may get burnout. If you're doing it as a hobby and you're doing it when you're feeling inspired and you have the time to sit at the computer and do it, listening to too much music and surrounding yourself with it too much, yeah, you're going to get that burnout feeling.
You
So
know, that's a great point. I not really thought about that in the sense of if I'm writing music and listening to music, it's just going to lead to burnout.
yeah,
That's a great point. I had never, not really thought about that, but that is true. Is that when I'm not writing music, the last thing I want to do is listen to a bunch of music.
right. And again, and it's to your point saying that, if I'm losing inspiration or I'm not doing exactly what I want to be doing, yeah, sure, go ahead and explore, check out a discover playlist or whatever it might be. But
Absolutely.
if you're pulling from within and you're figuring out things and you're getting inspired by the things that you're actually doing, dude, keep it up. If that's your process, just go for it.
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
yeah, at the moment, I just knock on wood, but I just don't see a point in the near future where I'll run out of that
there you
inspiration.
go. Keep it up.
So we'll see
All
what
right.
happens. We'll see what happens.
So I've got one more question for you at this point, and that's how I like to wrap these things up. Basically, the question is, and you've sort of touched on it, but for the person that is going to discover your music for the first time, and for the person that is going to basically, listen to the music that you've created, what is an opening message that you'd like to pass off to them?
Hmm, interesting question. I like it. I like it. I think what I would say is these are songs about life. Um, these are songs that are meant to get you to think about how you can achieve the next thing you want to achieve in your life, whether it's getting the new promotion or learning how to cook or going to the gym more often or incorporating meditating into your life or being a better partner,
Right.
like whatever it is that you want to do in your life. These songs are meant to be a small microcosm of that journey. That journey isn't always going to be positive. There's going to be struggles along the way. You're not going to want to continue at some point possibly, and it's just persevering through all of that and coming out ahead. Even if you don't achieve your ultimate goal, enjoy the journey, enjoy the process of getting to that point, and that's all you can hope to get out of life is just enjoying the journey as much as possible. So it won't be pretty, but as much as you can do that, that's what I'm hoping to come across in my music.
That's a great answer. I think that that message will come across as they listen, just due to the sheer amount of emotion and drama and just the context of it all. Um, Saral, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to do this. I'm really happy that we can make this work. And for everyone else out there, Saral is known as Polarity Code, and Polarity Code has just put out an amazing single called An Illusion. Give it a listen, follow along for more. It sounds like there's much more on the way. I can't recommend it enough.
I'm like truly grateful for your time. This is my first official interview, so I'm
Awesome.
like I'm a little nervous. I've been a little nervous, but I'm so grateful for your time and for your thoughtful questions. And I'd love to chat again with you soon.
Absolutely. I hope I made it easy. I hope it made it to be an enjoyable experience
This has been
at
great.
the
Yeah,
least.
this has been very great. So
Awesome.
thank you so
You're
much.
very welcome. Again, thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll keep in touch, and we'll speak soon.
Yeah, you
All
too.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you
Enjoy
so
the
much
rest of your day
again.
as well.
Yeah. Take care. Bye bye.